The man didn't run. That was the first thing Officer Daniel Reyes noticed. Most people ran, especially in broad daylight, especially with a store clerk yelling behind them. But this man didn't even look back. He just stood there in the harsh afternoon sun, clutching a gallon of milk like it was something fragile, something sacred. "Stop right there!" the clerk shouted, bursting out of the store. "He stole it, didn't pay for a damn thing!" Daniel stepped out of his patrol car, the heat radiating off the pavement as he adjusted his belt. The scene felt almost surreal. Cars rolled past. A couple walked by, slowing just enough to stare. Somewhere in the distance, a lawnmower buzzed. Life moved on like nothing was wrong. But something was. The man turned slowly, his movements stiff, like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were worn. His hoodie stained at the sleeves. His eyes met Daniel's, and in that brief moment, something flickered there. Not guilt, not fear, something worse. "Sir," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm, "I'm going to need you to put the milk down." The man hesitated, tightening his grip on the plastic jug. His fingers pressed so hard into it that the container bent slightly. "Please," he said, barely above a whisper. "I need this." Daniel had heard it all before. People always needed something: money, food, a second chance. And sometimes those needs turned into excuses. His job wasn't to weigh emotions, it was to enforce the law. "Put it down," Daniel repeated, stepping closer. The clerk stood a few feet behind, arms crossed, breathing hard. "Don't listen to him. He walked right out like he owned the place." The man's shoulders sagged. Slowly, like it physically hurt him, he bent down and placed the milk on the ground. Daniel moved in quickly, turning him around and securing his wrists with handcuffs. The metal clicked shut, sharp, final. "What's your name?" Daniel asked. "Marcus," the man replied. "Marcus Hill." "Well, Marcus, you're under arrest for theft." Marcus didn't resist. He didn't protest. He didn't even ask questions, and that bothered Daniel more than anything. By now, a small crowd had gathered. A few people held up their phones, recording. One guy muttered something about another thief caught. Another shook his head like he'd seen it all before. Daniel guided Marcus toward the patrol car, but as he opened the back door, Marcus suddenly spoke again. "My baby," Daniel paused. "What?" "My baby needs that milk," Marcus said, his voice cracking open. She hasn't eaten since yesterday." The words hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. Daniel looked at him carefully. There were no signs of manipulation in his face, no rehearsed desperation, just raw, unfiltered panic buried under exhaustion. Still, procedure was procedure. "Do you have someone at home with her?" Daniel asked. Marcus shook his head. "No, it's just me." Daniel glanced toward the store, then back at the milk on the ground. The clerk had already picked it up, muttering as he walked inside. "Where do you live?" Daniel asked. Marcus swallowed. "Couple blocks down, Maple Street, apartment 3B. Daniel hesitated. He shouldn't. This wasn't part of the job, but something didn't sit right. "Get in the car," he said finally. The drive was quiet. Marcus sat in the back seat and staring out the window like he wasn't really seeing anything. Daniel kept his eyes on the road, but his mind kept circling back to those two words. "My baby." People lied. That was a fact of the job. But something about Marcus didn't feel like a lie. 3 months, Marcus said suddenly. Daniel frowned slightly. "What?" "My daughter," Marcus clarified. "She's 3 months old." Daniel nodded once but didn't respond. When they turned onto Maple Street, the neighborhood changed. The buildings were older, paint peeled from walls, windows were patched or boarded, the sidewalks were cracked uneven. Daniel parked in front of a narrow apartment building that looked like it had been forgotten by time. "This it?" he asked. Marcus nodded. Daniel stepped out, then opened the back door. "You're coming with me." They climbed the stairs together, Marcus still cuffed, moving slowly like every step drained him further. The hallway smelled damp, with a faint odor of something sour lingering in the air. Apartment 3B, the door was slightly open. Daniel's instincts sharpened immediately. He pushed it wider and stepped inside first, and then he stopped. The place was almost empty, no couch, no table, no television, just bare walls and a thin mattress on the floor in the corner. Sunlight streamed in through a cracked window, illuminating dust particles floating in the air. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like survival. "Your baby?" Daniel asked, his voice quieter now. Marcus nodded behind him. In the corner. Daniel turned. There it was, a small cradle, old, worn, slightly crooked, sat near the window. And for a brief, the chilling second, it was completely still. Daniel's chest tightened as he stepped closer. Then, a sound. Soft, weak, fragile, a faint cry. Relief hit him instantly, but it was quickly replaced by something else. Concern. Inside the cradle lay a tiny infant, wrapped in a thin blanket that looked too light for comfort. Her face was pale, her movements slow, her cries barely strong enough to fill the room. Daniel swallowed hard. He scanned the room quickly. No bottles, no formula, no food, nothing. He turned back to Marcus, who stood there with tears streaming down his face, his cuffed hands trembling behind his back. "I didn't know what else to do," Marcus whispered. I tried everything." Daniel looked at the baby again, then at the empty room, then back at Marcus. And for the first time since he put on the uniform that morning, he felt something crack. Not doubt in the law, but doubt in the moment. The kind of doubt that doesn't ask what's legal, but what's right. And standing there, in the quiet of that nearly empty apartment, with a starving child barely crying in a broken cradle, Officer Daniel Reyes realized this arrest was no longer simple, not even close. For a long moment, Officer Daniel Reyes didn't move. The faint cries of the baby filled the empty apartment, echoing softly off bare walls that held no warmth, no comfort, just silence and struggle. The sunlight that had seemed ordinary outside now felt harsh inside, exposing every crack, every missing piece of a life that had fallen apart. Daniel turned slowly to Marcus. "You said she hasn't eaten since yesterday?" Marcus shook his head, his voice breaking. "I tried to stretch what I had. A little water, some sugar. I know it's not right. I didn't have anything else." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. He'd seen poverty before. He'd seen people struggling. But this wasn't just struggle. This was a breaking point. He stepped closer to Marcus, studying him, not as a suspect this time, but as a father. "Why didn't you ask for help?" Daniel asked. Marcus let out a hollow laugh. "Who do you ask when you've already asked everyone? Lost my job 2 weeks ago. Rent's overdue. No family nearby. Friends. They stopped picking up my calls." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I was watching her cry, and I couldn't do anything about it." Daniel felt that sentence land deep. Not anger, not guilt, helplessness. The kind that strips a person down to nothing. And Daniel looked at the handcuffs around Marcus's wrists, then back at the baby, then at the empty space around them. The law was clear. Theft was theft. There were procedures, reports, consequences. But there was also reality. And reality was standing right in front of him. Without another word, Daniel reached into his pocket. Marcus stiffened slightly as he stepped closer. Then, click. The cuffs loosened. Marcus blinked, confused, slowly bringing his hands forward as if he didn't believe they were free. What are you doing?" he asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. He simply looked him in the eye. "Take care of your daughter," he said quietly. Marcus's face crumpled instantly. He covered his mouth, trying and failing to hold back the wave of emotion crashing over him. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." Daniel turned and walked out of the apartment without another word. 15 minutes later, he was back, but this time, he wasn't alone. In one hand, he carried a grocery bag, milk, baby formula, bread, canned food. In the other, a small box with bottles, diapers, and wipes. Marcus looked up as the door opened, disbelief written all over his face. "You came back." Daniel set the bags down on the floor. "We're not done yet." He quickly opened the formula, reading the instructions, then moved with careful precision, like someone who had never done this before but understood exactly how important it was. "Here," he said, handing Marcus a bottle. "Feed her slowly." Marcus nodded, his hands still shaking as he lifted his baby gently from the cradle. The moment the bottle touched her lips, she latched on weakly, but desperately, and the room fell silent, except for the soft sounds of her drinking. And for the first time, there was peace. Daniel exhaled slowly, leaning against the wall. "She's strong," he said. Marcus nodded, tears streaming freely now. "She has to be." Daniel reached into his pocket again and pulled out a small card. "There are assistance programs," he said. "Food banks, emergency housing. I'm writing down a contact. She works with families in situations like yours. You call her today, not tomorrow. Today." Marcus took the card like it was another lifeline. "I will. I swear." Daniel studied him carefully. "I believe you." There was a pause. Then Marcus spoke again, quieter this time. "Why didn't you take me in?" Daniel looked back at the baby, now calmer, her tiny fingers curling slightly as she fed. "Because sometimes," he said slowly, doing the right thing doesn't look like following the rules exactly as written." Marcus lowered his head, overwhelmed. "I won't waste this," he said. "You better not," Daniel replied. That day didn't make headlines. There were no viral videos, no news reports, no public recognition, just a father who got a second chance and a baby who got to eat. But for Daniel, it changed everything. He still wore the badge, still enforced the law, but he never forgot what he saw in that apartment, the empty cradle, the hollow silence, and the quiet desperation of a man pushed beyond his limits. Because sometimes, the line between right and wrong isn't as clear as people think. Sometimes it's drawn by circumstances, by pain, by love. And sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is choose compassion when it would be easier to choose judgment. Before you judge someone for their worst moment, ask yourself, what led them there? Not every mistake comes from bad intentions. Some come from desperation, from love, from trying to survive when the world offers no help. Kindness doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll past. Take a second to reflect. What would you have done in that moment? Would you follow the rules or follow your heart? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to hear your perspective. And if you want more powerful, emotional stories like this, make sure to drop a heart in the comment section. Follow, like, and share.